So here we have an art piece created to depict all the positive aspects of being Black. For me, it was important to do this in 2020 because it was such a turbulent year with race relations as well as the coronavirus on the front lines of everybody's consciousness. For me, as a young Black man, it's important for me to depict my people in the right way. There is no part of the stereotypical Black narrative that I was allowed to skip. However, I did not get trapped at the end of that narrative. Personally, I didn't get trapped at the end of that narrative. And since I did not get trapped at the end of that narrative and I see how far the story can go, it was only me, and I felt a personal responsibility to create the narrative in art. That being said, it goes from birth to death. You start off as a child, and as you dream and you try to channel the power of your ancestors, the goal is hopefully to, when you're done, you get to die as a king. And this is a king or a pharaoh, so to speak, and that's what this represents. Beautiful piece. I love the pinks and how they work with the black and white photos. I won't speak too long about it because I can go on forever, but the purpose of this was to depict the Black existence in the most positive light possible, to show the many different dimensions besides the oppression. This is a lower piece. It is a table. It's about 54 inches wide. It's sitting on top of a Black Panther, which was very important to me to have a Black Panther incorporated in it, as this year we did lose the Black Panther. Once again, like its twin over there that I was explaining, the purpose of this was to depict Black people in the most positive light possible. The other purpose of this was, I, as a Black person, there's certain Black faces I'm sick of you giving me. And when I say sick of, it's not that I don't appreciate those faces, it's that it's unfair that you only roll out Malcolm X in February, you only roll out Martin Luther King in February, you only roll out Frederick Douglass in February, when we have many other Black people, from my perspective, making history and who need to be immortalized for who they were. That being said, it was important for me to use the Black Panther, Kobe Bryant, and Nipsey Hussle because they are Black history to the date, right? They're Black history now. They're not Black history from 1890, you know what I mean? They're not Black history from the Civil Rights Movement. They're Black history now. Their influence penetrates now. Not to discredit anyone. As a Black person, I hate to see how quickly we're just thrown away. Impact you make, gone. So we won't go on too long, but that's what the purpose of this was, to showcase positivity, positive Black images, and to show the many different ways that can come about. So yes.
You ever see a Black man walk? It's like Rhythm and Meter got up off the page and decided to move and glide with spirit. You ever see a Black man walk in the room, Morris Cole style, like keep tap dancing? I'm here. In those steps are messages, and you have to listen carefully. They trying to kill me. Stop, search, and frisk me. There are prayers in a Black man's walk. Don't let them shoot me down where I'm standing. Don't let the white chalk lines find me. Don't let me die in the streets like an animal. I'm a man. I swear I'm a man. When a Black man walks, a whole generation lives to see another day, another sunrise, another mouth to feed, another seed, another sacrifice saved, another poem, another hungry burning cross, another mother breathing in her son's ear. Move easy. Move quietly. Keep your head down, boy.
I'm standing in between two art pieces that depict Blackness in a unique way. This one over here is one of my most famous pieces. People love this one a lot. I hope that in the video you can see exactly what I'm talking about. What I did was, as a collage artist, I'm always thinking of things in juxtaposition to each other. I'm always thinking of things in a way that you wouldn't necessarily think of, or I try to make them complement each other while also being in conflict. With that being said, half of this is in black and white because at one point when you were African American, when you're black, your life was black and white. You were a slave, you were not free. That was it, cut and dry, right? So that's what that was. And then the other half I put in color because now there's many different variations of the black existence and the trajectory of where you can go. So things are not what they were. And then as I depicted Africa, the motherland in the middle, I mixed the black and whites together. I tried to showcase the levels of intensity that you go through being black and knowing the history and also the future. So that's what this is all meant to represent. Um, if you see up here, you probably can't tell, it's maybe too small, but I have um, an ancient, you know what I mean, a depiction of ancient tribesmen and a young black man with a pharaoh and then Obama, showing how all black people are connected through time and space and into infinity. That's what that is meant to depict to me. You might have your own interpretation, but I created it, so that's what that is. Then you go over here, and I hope that this is all in frame. I love this black mirror. I love the marble mirror. I don't know what this is called. If you know what it's called, let me know. Absolutely love it. Can't explain it. As an artist, beautiful. But we'll go on. So these three images these are not super famous people. These people are New York basketball players. And I love those photos because they showcase the power that the black man possesses that many people like to discard or dismiss um, as we are degraded in America and society, over and over, or depicted as pimps and drug dealers and things of that nature. I love these images because you can see the power they possess beyond what you want to think that they're like, if that makes sense. Um, Beyond that, there are many other super famous and other black idols depicted in the collage. And the purpose of the collage being above the mirror is so that this can be in your doorway before you leave, or the first thing you see in your room or in a bathroom, somewhere where you're to collect yourself and remind yourself of who you are. That's the purpose of having those images above the mirror, especially having the pharaoh in the middle. And I love that picture because it's kind of got a grayish tone to the gold. So it's not meant to pop the way that, we usually think of the pharaoh to pop. It's more to be subtle, just to remind yourself that, hey, come to the center, realize who you are. And yes, reflect on it. That's what that's for. So that's what these two are about. This is also something I felt compelled to do. I think that as time goes on, we forget what a legend really is. We forget what a icon really is and the reason they became an icon. That being said, this was my homage. This was my dedication to one of the most prolific figures in sports, and that's Muhammad Ali. As you can see up there, I did a huge collage for Muhammad Ali. Um, Purely based off of the little bit of research I did about him over the summer. With everything going on in 2020, the question was posed, where's Kendrick Lamar? Where's J. Cole? Where are these people that we put in positions of love and adulation as black people? Where are they? Why aren't they speaking? And when that question was posed, what came to my mind was, Ali and other people who back then sacrificed their whole careers to protect and to remain as connected to their blackness. So that's what this is meant to depict. How Ali, no matter what he did, he maintained that he was black. He didn't care about the check. Had he been alive today, he'd be worth $1 billion. But I doubt he'd take the money if he saw what was happening in 2020. I think he definitely would be tweeting. He definitely would be on Facebook talking about it. He'd be in controversy, stirring things up to protect his people. The one thing that I'd like to say before I end the video, talking about Ali and this other art piece dedicated to Ali, is there's a video of Mike Tyson talking about Ali. And the main thing that he wanted to let people know was that he could walk amongst the people. And for me personally, that's a big deal, right? Most celebrities, white, black, or red, they can't walk amongst the people and remain untouched and remain unbothered. But Ali always could. And a lot of the pictures in there, they depict that. So just wanted to make that known. Look up that video. It's a very good video. Um, this is all an Ali collage, once again dedicated to his legacy. No need to go and ramble on. That's what it is. It's a piece of furniture. There's shelves at the bottom, drawer, and the knobs are bees because of his most famous quote, float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. One of my favorite pieces of furniture that I've made because it blends that line between art where you don't want to have it in your house, and then art that's practical enough to have in your house. That's what this represents to me. That line that I'm always trying to personally wedge myself in because the things I want to make may not be, friendly to your home. So that's what this represents.
Black Muslims.
I beg your pardon, are the Muslims taking you for a ride?
No, the white people have been taking us for a ride for the past 400 years in America. The Muslims are straightening me up and teaching me the truth and saving my life so that I can see the hereafter. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us the religion of Islam, and I will die for it and give everything. But as far as taking me for a ride,
So this is another piece. This is a living room table. This is my 2020 piece, absolutely 2020. When I think of 2020, I think of this art piece. It's important for me, once again, to utilize my position as a Black American citizen to have it be understood what we're trying to say when we're in the streets and things of that nature. So if you look at this from left to right, it's a timetable of the most pressing issues for Black people within that decade. So if you start over there, that's the 60s. It's the civil rights movement. And everything within that collage, it symbolizes the civil rights movement. As you move on, it's the 80s, and we are now entering into the beginning of the war on drugs era. Then you go from the 80s to the 90s. And in the 90s, we are up against the solidification of mass incarceration through the true crime bill championed by Bill Clinton. And then you go to 2020, where the fight remains for human rights, as people have been screaming Black Lives Matter since about 2014. So what all this is meant to depict is what Black people in America are saying each decade. And although it changes, it doesn't, right? It's this idea that, hey, the treatment should be evenly distributed. You know what I mean? Hey, the laws are criminalizing our existence, and that's what this is meant to depict. I love it. I think I did a wonderful job. Obviously, I'm going to think that I made it. But yeah, it's one of my favorite art. This is one of my most popular pieces, one of my most famous pieces. I had to turn the light off because the glare was too much. But this is one of my most popular pieces, and I personally don't know why, but I love it nonetheless. That being said, there are certain aspects of this that I would like to explain or highlight. So that being said, let me try with the light on. You can't see, so I'm just gonna explain it. And you can't see, which means you gotta come see it in person. That being said, in the middle, the centerpiece, I have Michael Jackson's face. And the reason that I have Michael Jackson's face is because there's this hypocrisy or I'll say contradiction in American society, where on one hand, you have a Michael Jackson where they are the most prolific and powerful pop superstar of all time. However, you also have the depiction of us on cops getting chased down every week. So there's this like contradiction, like which way do you see us, right? And I love Michael Jackson because for me he speaks to that, and that's a much deeper conversation that we could have later. But I love Michael Jackson in this position because he was the most recognizable face on the planet, and he's a black man, right? Black men being depicted so negatively in American society. In his eyes, he has sunglasses, and I cut out the sunglasses, and I cut them out because I wanted to show what he was trying to, what he saw as a problem. I think Michael Jackson's one of my favorite superstars because he never compromises blackness. Now, when I say that, I don't mean the actual color of his skin. I mean the content he was creating. He remained an African-American superstar from beginning to end. That being said, his points, one of my favorite songs from him, they don't really care about us. And in his eyes, I have two black children in one eye, and on the other eye, I have a black man getting choked by the police. To me, that showcases Michael Jackson's focus, his people, whether you like it or not. That being said, there are a couple other pieces in here. At the top, I have Martin Luther King, and he's sitting there and he's contemplating. The reason that I have that image of Martin Luther King and not him giving a speech or anything of that nature is because I think we get wrapped up in the media version of leadership, which is the speeches and the marches. But when you're in a position of leadership, there's these moments where you have to decide because people depend on you, and it's not easy. And that's what I wanted to depict with that. I love that picture. You can't see it in the video, but he's got his hands folded and he's thinking, and that's more so the reality of being in that position rather than the speeches and things of that nature. In between Martin Luther King, I have a police officer and a member of the KKK, but they're both standing in the same way. And that's meant to show how the laws and the ideology of the KKK mirror each other a lot of the time. It's unfortunate that that is a reality that we live in. However, if we don't address it, we'll never be able to fix it. So I have those there. And then I have my favorite portion of the piece because it so clearly depicts what I'm talking about. I have Mr. Drummond from the show Different Strokes from the 80s. And he's holding both of his adopted children. And for me, what it represents is how we are used to rich white men controlling black bodies. That's what that's there to depict. And for me, it just speaks volumes because it's like that show, A, would never exist today, and B, what was that show really saying back then, that we are not able to take care of our own children, not able to influence our own children, and that the only way to have a good life is to live under the guise and direction and under the control of a rich white man. So, and lastly, I have Abraham Lincoln there for obvious reasons. Lincoln being the beginning of the freeing of black people, at least theoretically. It's a much different, deeper discussion, but this is one of the more striking pieces. It does work, the light works, and it is a great piece of furniture. 2020 was a crazy year and a year we would like to forget. That being said, there's certain things that happened in 2020 that none of us will ever be able to forget. And one of those things was the passing of Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is a prolific sports icon. Kobe Bryant in the game of basketball will be remembered as being the top 5, top 10 at the worst, top 10. That being said, when he passed, I felt compelled as an artist to do my due diligence and to create something dedicated to his life and his legacy. On a personal note, as I grew up my entire life until he retired, Kobe represented focus, endurance, and on a personal note for me, Kobe Bryant represented not allowing other people's perceptions of you to dictate your greatness. Kobe Bryant had no problem being the bad guy. And some athletes, their problem lies in their inability to accept that by you being successful, people are not going to like you. That's not just for athletes, that's for everybody. The harder you go, the more focused and determined you are, the more likely weak people around you are not going to like you. And that's what Kobe showed me. He showed me on the court. I loved Kobe Bryant for that. And because of that, I immediately went to work. He passed, I was hurt, and I had to do something. So over here you see number 8, over here you see 24. I depict the beginning of his career, his rookie year to when he was winning those rings with Shaq. And on this side, the 24 side, as you can see, I utilized the tail end of his career when he was beating the Boston Celtics and he was, tapering off into retirement. And then in the middle, I have the glue being his family. So you see his family at the bottom and his family at the top, that being the glue that held him together and kept him as successful as he was. So that being said, this is my homage to Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace, and I hope that I did him justice. Now, this is my most powerful piece. This is my most striking and dynamic piece of art that I made in 2020. This is my personal favorite as well that I've made in 2020 because it so directly depicts what I'm trying to say and what I think the Black Lives Matter movement is trying to do. The reason this is so striking and so powerful and so beautiful is because it cuts away at the biases that people try to use to argue against the Black Lives Matter movement. It cuts away at the statistics. It cuts away at the ability to look away. What it forces you to do is to understand in very blatant terms the velocity and the intensity of the movement and the purpose of the movement. For me, while everything was happening and all the conversations were happening in 2020, I, as an artist, had to go into the depths of my mind and ask myself, okay, how can I say this as quick as possible? How can I say this without you thinking I'm using emotions? How can I say this without you thinking I'm using my blackness to say this? How do I say it in terms that are so clear that anybody seeing it would say, okay, things need to change. That being said, what I wanted to do was cut out any interruptions, and that's why you see the blood. The blood is meant to cut out any interruptions because usually when you see police brutality, the person is black. So if you're not black, you get the luxury of saying, oh, well, that wouldn't happen to me. Or they're poor. So financially you get to say, oh, well, I'm not poor. So that person's poor. They're getting beat up by the cops because they're homeless. That's them. Or the person is a minority. So you get to just say to yourself, well, they're other, right? They're other. So that's not me. Or they're a young person and you say, well, they're young, they're immature, the cop should slam them on the ground. Anything you want to say, what cuts through that and makes that non-existent is the blood, because we all have blood. And once you see blood, you remember that we're all connected and we're all human. So once you're at that thought, it can't be other, it can't be racist, it can't be anything like it. It has to be wrong, right? Because nobody wants to see anybody else's blood. On top of that, I have the bullets, because when you say things to people, when you say, people are getting shot, most people don't even shoot guns. They've never even shot a gun. They don't know the power of a gun. They don't know what it feels like. They don't know the damage a gun can do. So the bullets are here to show you, hey, this is what we're talking about. Actual bullets, actual blood, actual lives being lost. On top of that, I have 4 shattered images that really depict, to me on a personal note, they depict the shattered image of the black person in America. Right here, there's a pharaoh, and to me, the fall from grace, or the dissection and the taking out of the things that African people did, and how that's ripped away and not even counted in what we are doing now, that's what that represents. And then over here, I have a picture of Fred Hampton, who was saying Black Lives Matter before it was popular. And I love this picture of Fred Hampton because it's in red, because he was assassinated by the FBI. Over here, I have another picture of Fred Hampton because symbolically, not legislatively, not, in a way where you can count the dollars, and maybe he didn't write a bunch of laws, but symbolically, he is the closest civil rights leader that I can say I identify with on an ideological level. So right here, you have him in the middle of a moment of police brutality, as well as a civil rights march. Then over here, there's Barack Obama with Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King has red blood over his face because he was assassinated as well. And all this is meant to depict what I believe is trying to be conveyed by the Black Lives Matter movement. And I do believe anybody who disagrees with this is on the wrong side of history. So, thank you. So what you just watched was me going through every art piece that I have at the Galleria De ARTE in Bolingbrook. I'm incredibly blessed for the opportunity, and that was me systematically breaking down the utility and the purpose of all the art pieces that I have up. But now I'm at the point where I would like to, tell my story, a quick synopsis of my story, because it's important for me to tell my story every chance I get, for many reasons, but mostly because I was in a different psychological space 15 years ago. I didn't see the potential of my existence 15 years ago. And it's so important for me to repeat the story and repeat the story and repeat the story and beat the dead horse, because I never knew that I would be here. And when you suffer the way I suffered at a young age, it's hard for you to see even the next day. It's hard for you to see the next week, let alone 15 years later when you be standing in an art gallery full of art that you made with your own bare hands. Things that people have never seen before, things that, you know what I mean, grown men, you know, they see this and say, oh my God, you know, and I have to thank, and that's why I'm doing this, right? I have to thank my trauma. Now, when I say this, it's a complex thought, because am I saying that I actually would like to go through the things that I went through at a young age, you know, being homeless, being kicked out, having no support, having no father, having virtually no mother, having, you know, no one there to help me with the trials and tribulations of my existence. Would I want to do that exactly again, verbatim? I can't say yes, but what I can say is my ability to focus now, my belief in myself is something that can't be shaken. It can't be challenged because I've already been broken and I rebuilt myself. So I know the chinks in my armor and I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? In the words of Christopher Wallace, you know, Biggie Smalls, I'm ready to die because I've already seen how horrific life can be. So it's not a fear of mine. That's in conversation. It's not a fear of mine. That's in creation. It's not a fear of mine. I'm not afraid of anyone's opinion. I'm not afraid of the possibilities because I've seen it. I've been homeless. I've been starving. I've been hungry. I've been unloved. I've been alone. So it doesn't matter to me. Like, you know what I mean? For better or for worse, you therapists out there, you go somewhere with that. You know what I mean? But I have to thank that because that is why I appreciate now to a degree that I know many other people don't. A lot of people I interact with, I won't say the problem, because it's not a problem, it's just a different perspective, they don't have an appreciation for air. They don't have an appreciation for water, for food, for friendship, for potential. They don't have a appreciation for it because it was never taken away from them, you know. I have had it all taken away from me more than once. And I've come back, and I'm here now, you know. So for me, my story is one that is tangible. My story is one that you can, you know, utilize to say, okay, you know what I mean? That kid I know who, you know, doesn't have a mom and doesn't have a dad, that kid I know, you know what? Let me tell him he can do it. You know what I mean? Your cousin, your stepbrother, any of those people in your life that you may not be, they may not be in your inner circle, and they're going through something, and you know they're going through something. You know what I mean? This is my story, is so you can support those kids, because I was one of those forgotten children that no one ever believed would do anything at all, because statistically, I was supposed to be in prison, and psychologically, I was supposed to be dead due to the level of depression I experienced. But through creation and through sheer self-motivation, I was able to overcome all of that. So my story is one to let you know, the viewer, to you can do it. When I say do it, by it, I mean you can overcome the circumstances of your existence to get to a different position in life through a dedication to creation and self-motivation. And also, forgot, I made that point too hard, but the people around you who are going through things, please support them, because you don't know where they will end up. Had I not received the support that I received when I received it at certain points in my life from the people who helped me, either with a meal, a place to sleep, kind words, or you know, clothes, or whatever I was given, had I not received that then, I wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't be the giving person and the caring person that I am now. So just as I have to thank my trauma, I also have to thank the support that I received as a young man and throughout my the beginning of my 20s. I have to thank all those people, because without them, this would not be possible. So that's it. If you watched it, if you got to this point in the video, I appreciate you listening, and I hope that you are now motivated to create things yourself.